Chosen one. Let me ask you something that your soul has quietly wondered for years, maybe even decades. Have you ever felt like something deep inside you is changing, but the world around you hasn't caught up yet? Have you been walking through your days with the sense that you're on the edge of something final, something sacred, but you can't quite name it? It's as if you're living in between two worlds, one foot in the ordinary, the other pulled towards something ancient, something destined. You see, when a chosen one begins to shift into the final phase of their awakening, the outer world often goes quiet. Familiar places begin to feel foreign. People you've known for years no longer recognize who you're becoming. You look in the mirror and sense someone is returning, but it's not the you others expect. It's the you that God whispered into existence before the noise of this world tried to rewrite your name. This message isn't for the many. It's not designed to please the masses or entertain the surface-level souls. This message found you because it was meant to. It's arriving in your life right on time, even if everything else around you feels late, even if you feel left behind, especially if you've been battling the lie that it's too late to start over spiritually. That lie has been stealing your breath, hasn't it? Making you feel like your best years are behind you, like your pain disqualified you from divine timing. But hear me now, the pain didn't disqualify you. It prepared you. You're not crazy for feeling forgotten by destiny. That ache in your heart is real. The restlessness, the disconnection, the deep longing for something that doesn't fit in this world's language. That's not dysfunction. That's divine awakening. And you're not too old. You're not too late. You're right on time for the sacred phase that most people never reach. The final phase, where the masks fall, where truth replaces performance, where healing shame from the past opens the gates to authority in the spirit, where survival ends and sacred living begins. Now I'll ask you something serious. You have a choice right now. You can click away, go back to the noise, the scrolling, the distraction, and lose the clarity your soul's been crying for. Or you can stay until the end. Stay and receive the words that were meant to confirm what your spirit already knows. And if you do, you'll walk away lighter, stronger, remembering. If anything in you is already stirring, I invite you to comment 111 or 777, not for the algorithm, but as a sign to yourself that you are listening now, that you're present, that you're ready. This is not just a video, this is a doorway. You didn't find this, it found you. And if you've been walking through a season of emotional pain, disconnection, or uncertainty, know this. Many chosen ones experience the deepest silence right before their divine clarity returns. That silence, it's not absence, it's alignment. God speaks loudest in the stillness that this world misinterprets as nothing. But you, chosen one, were made to hear the silence, to understand the pause, to walk the sacred road few have the courage to step onto. This message will not give you steps. It will give you recognition. It will give your soul the language it forgot it knew. It will speak to the part of you that has always been watching, waiting, preparing. The part that remembers your true name. So if you're still here, breathe deep. Settle in. You're not watching this by mistake. Your midlife spiritual awakening is not a breakdown. It's a birthing. And you're not behind. You're being called forward by something older than time. This is your season of alignment. And it begins right now. Like, comment, and subscribe. Not for me, but for you. To claim your seat. To declare your remembrance. Comment 111 or 777 if you're ready to walk through this with your eyes open and your soul grounded. Whenever the world gets too heavy, this space is here. Come back to rest your soul. Now let's begin. You didn't ask for it. It wasn't loud. It didn't come with thunder or fire. But something started changing, didn't it? You began to notice the silence growing louder. The familiar things, your job, your friends, your old rhythms, they stopped feeling like home. And instead of excitement for the future, a strange kind of sacred discomfort began creeping in. That's how it begins. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. The quiet storm that calls the chosen one into the final phase. You see, the world doesn't teach us how to honor silence. It doesn't teach us how to make peace with the in-between. But this storm, this quiet shift, is how the Spirit speaks when it wants your attention without the noise. The external noise dies down so that the inner voice can rise. You started to feel like you were being pulled away from everything that once defined you. And maybe you thought something was wrong. Maybe you even asked, why is everything falling apart? But listen closely. What's falling apart is only what was never truly yours. When the final phase of awakening begins, the false layers start shedding. Not because you failed, but because your soul is preparing for something sacred, something real. That's why you felt disconnected from the things that used to light you up. That's why you no longer chase the same dreams or need the same validation. You're not breaking down. You're waking up. The call of the quiet storm isn't like the loud call of youth. It's not about action or ambition. It's about alignment. It's about remembering who you are without all the costumes, without all the noise. And that can feel terrifying, because no one taught you how to sit in the silence long enough to hear what God has always been saying. Let me ask you this. Have you noticed that your conversations have become fewer, but more meaningful? That you can no longer tolerate surface-level things? That crowds exhaust you, but a walk alone in nature feels like worship? That's the sign. That's the sacred signal. You're being refined, not punished. Separated, not rejected. Prepared, not postponed. Many chosen ones mistake this storm as the end, but the truth is, it's the beginning of the final phase. It's what comes before your true assignments are revealed. It's where God takes the distractions out of your hands so you can carry what truly matters. It's the moment where your ego starts losing control and your spirit starts remembering how to lead. You might feel lonely in this part, but you're not alone. Every soul destined for something divine must walk through the quiet before the command. Even Christ withdrew into the wilderness before his mission began. Even the prophets endured long seasons of hiddenness before their voices were released. You too are in your wilderness, but not the kind that leads to death. The kind that births revelation. Don't rush it. Don't try to fix it. Let the storm pass through you. Let it clean out everything that was never real. Let it strip you of what the world applauded but God never assigned, because what's coming next can only be carried by the soul that has passed through the silence without losing its song. So if you're here, and the winds have already begun to change in your life, know this: you are not being left behind. You are being called deeper. The final phase isn't a finish line, it's a homecoming. Let the storm call you. Let it carry you inward. Because when it's done, you'll rise without needing to explain anything to anyone. You'll just walk, and the world will know. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when you no longer belong to the world you knew, but you haven't yet stepped fully into the world you were born for. That moment is not easy. It stretches the soul. It confuses the mind. It humbles the heart. You start to feel like you're floating between realities, not quite anchored, not quite lost, just waiting, watching, wondering if you'll ever feel at home again. This is what I call the ache between worlds. And if you're feeling it right now, you're not broken, you're becoming. You look around at your life and say, I should feel grateful, but something still feels hollow. The things that used to comfort you don't work anymore. The roles you played feel like costumes now. You try to explain it to others, but they look at you with blank eyes. They don't understand that your awakening is unraveling you in the best possible way. You're not meant to fit where you once did. The reason it all feels so strange is because your soul is being prepared to carry light in a way it never has before. The ache is holy. It is sacred space. It is the stretching of your spiritual womb before the new thing is birthed. You're not going backwards. You're being pulled forward so powerfully that the cords of the past are snapping off in silence. And yes, it feels like grief, because part of you is dying. The part of you that needed to be liked. The part that thought purpose had to look like productivity. The part that measured your worth by how much others approved of you. That part was never the real you. It was the survival version. But now the sacred version is awakening. And she needs space. He needs silence. You need truth. You might feel suspended in time. Days blur. Conversations feel shallow. You wonder if you're missing something. But no, this is the divine delay. God slows down the clock in this phase so your soul can catch up to what's being revealed. This isn't punishment. This is precision. You're not in the dark. You're in the cocoon. And what is hidden now will soon emerge transformed. Tell me, have you found yourself revisiting old memories, childhood moments, past regrets you thought you buried? That's not regression. That's restoration. God is gathering the scattered pieces of your timeline and weaving them into wholeness. The ache you feel is the holy tension of remembrance. You're not just being healed, you're being rewritten from within. In this place, logic won't help you. You have to listen with your spirit. You have to move slowly. You have to honor the discomfort instead of escaping it. Because everything sacred is born in mystery. Don't be ashamed of your confusion. Even prophets trembled when the heavens opened. Even those chosen by God doubted their clarity in the beginning. It's okay if you don't have words for what's happening to you. Your transformation doesn't need a definition. It just needs your presence. Sit in this ache. Let it speak. Let it move through your body like a prayer that has no language. And when the silence becomes too loud, remember this. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. That is not just a promise, it's a pattern. You are not lost. You are being held. When you walk through the ache between worlds, something divine is watching you. And not once has heaven turned its eyes away. So don't fight the ache. Don't rush the bridge. You're not in limbo. You're in initiation. And when you finally step into the next world, the one that already belongs to you, you'll realize this ache was the threshold, the sacred tension before the arrival, the final contraction before the soul is born anew, and you'll be ready. Chosen one, have you been remembering things lately that don't make sense? Moments from childhood you hadn't thought of in decades? Dreams that feel more like messages, memories that come wrapped in emotions too deep to explain? That's not random. That's not nostalgia. That's sacred memory returning. That's your spirit reawakening to what it always knew. You see, as you enter the final phase of your awakening, God begins to uncover what the world made you forget. Not just moments, but meanings. You don't just remember what happened. You start to remember who you were before the world named you. Before fear, before shame, before survival rewrote your spirit. And it's strange, isn't it? You sit in silence and suddenly you feel connected to something ancient, something holy. You begin to feel the pull of your original design. And it's not about doing more. It's not about success. It's about alignment, about truth, about essence. You start to see with different eyes. You begin to sense who you were before the disappointments, before the heartbreaks, before the masks. You feel the ache for your original self, the you that existed before the world wounded you into forgetting. That ache is memory. That ache is sacred. And often, it shows up through pain. Something small triggers a tear you didn't know was hiding inside you. A sound, a name, a familiar place. You can't explain it to anyone. But deep down you know, this means something. This is a thread. This is God pulling you back through the labyrinth of your life to gather the pieces of your identity. And here's the part that breaks you open. You start to remember not just who you were, but who you were meant to become. The shame you've carried all these years, God is recontextualizing it. Not as a stain, but as a key. The failures you thought disqualified you. They were chapters in the sacred script that couldn't be skipped. You are beginning to see your life not as a series of wrong turns, but as a divinely orchestrated unfolding. Have you noticed that you can't lie to yourself anymore? That your soul is rejecting anything that feels false, forced, or disconnected? That's because your spirit is waking up. Your inner compass is no longer tolerating detours. You're not remembering for curiosity. You're remembering because you're being recalibrated. And it's holy, it's sacred, it's mysterious, but it's also deeply personal. God doesn't reveal memory all at once. He unfolds it in layers, like a scroll, like a song that builds verse by verse until your soul begins to sing again. And I want you to hear this clearly. You're not imagining this. You're not making it up. You're not unstable. You're awakening. Let me show you what the word says. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. That verse isn't just poetic. It's literal. God knew you, not the performance, not the personality you picked up in order to survive. He knew the real you, the original frequency of your being. And now, in this sacred season, that version is returning. You will begin to dream again. You will begin to speak differently. You'll start to recognize people not by their roles, but by the light or absence of it in their spirit. You'll start to feel time moving differently, because memory isn't just in your brain, it lives in your bones, it lives in your spirit. And when that memory comes alive, the world will no longer hold the same power over you, because you'll realize you were never meant to fit in it. You were sent to change it. This is what it means to remember. This is what it means to be called by God, not just to serve, but to awaken, not just to heal, but to reclaim. So let it happen. Let the sacred memories come, even if they make you cry, even if they make you question everything. They are not here to hurt you. They are here to restore you. You are remembering because you are returning to yourself, returning to truth, returning to purpose. And the soul that remembers cannot be stopped. Tell me, chosen one, have you felt it lately? That fire inside you that won't stay quiet anymore, that burn in your chest when you hear lies, when you see injustice, when you're asked to shrink for the comfort of others. That flame is not anger, that flame is not ego, it is sacred fire. It is divine remembrance erupting from within. It is the holy signal that you are entering the final phase of your calling. You've spent years suppressing it, haven't you? Making yourself smaller, softer, easier to digest. You learned to avoid conflict, to people please, to stay safe in roles that never reflected your real power. But now, something has changed. You can't pretend anymore. The words you used to swallow are rising up. The truth you used to hide behind silence now demands to be spoken. And this isn't rebellion. This is obedience. Obedience to the deeper self God has been resurrecting in your belly. You see, the fire doesn't come to destroy. It comes to refine. And yes, it will burn away some things. Old identities, false peace, shallow connections. But what remains will be pure, radiant, and true. The final phase always begins with a burning. The fire is how you know you're being called beyond comfort and into clarity. You're no longer able to tolerate what you once accepted. You feel agitated around certain people, even if they've done nothing wrong. Your spirit discerns what your logic cannot. That's the fire sharpening your perception. That's the Spirit of God tuning your internal compass toward divine truth. And it's terrifying, isn't it? To feel the fire rise when the room wants you to sit still, to speak when silence would be easier. But let me remind you, chosen one, is not my word like fire, declares the Lord, and like a hammer that breaks the rock in pieces. This fire is not an accident. It's an anointing. And yes, it might cost you. Some people won't understand you anymore. You'll be called too intense, too much, too deep. But you weren't sent here to be palatable. You were sent here to carry fire, to burn away illusions, to awaken dry bones, to illuminate sacred paths that have long been forgotten. That's why you've been through what you've been through. The emotional pain, the spiritual exile, the nights of asking God why you're wired this way. It was all preparation. It carved space in you for this flame. Because you can't carry fire if you haven't known what it feels like to walk through it. And now that it's rising, let it rise. Don't water it down. Don't apologize for it. Speak what God gives you. Move when the Spirit prompts you. Create what you've been scared to birth. Pray like the atmosphere is listening, because it is. The world needs your fire now. Not the fire of destruction, the fire of revelation, the fire that lights the way home. And when the fear creeps in, and it will, remember this: the fire in you was lit by God Himself. And He does not light what He does not intend to use. So if you feel that holy burn today, you're not out of control, you're aligned. Let the fire rise, chosen one. Let it cleanse, let it convict, let it carry you into the final phase, not as a survivor, but as a vessel. Because when a soul that has been broken by life chooses to carry divine fire, the darkness has no choice but to back away. Chosen one, I know this part hurts the most. The part where everything you built with your bare hands starts to crumble, where the identity you clung to begins to fall away. The job you once thought was your purpose starts to feel like a cage. The people you once called your foundation no longer recognize you. And it feels like loss. It feels like failure. But it's not. It's divine interruption. It's sacred collapse. It's the mercy of God removing what cannot come with you into the final phase. You see, the old path was never the final one. It was a holding place, a training ground. It served its purpose, but now it's finished, and your soul knows it. That's why staying in those old places makes you feel like you're suffocating. That's why every attempt to force the old dream to work keeps falling apart. You're not being punished, you're being redirected. You thought it was about climbing ladders, collecting achievements, meeting expectations. But now, all of that feels hollow. And maybe you've tried to push through it. Maybe you told yourself to be strong, to be grateful, to endure, but nothing changes, because strength can't hold up what God is no longer building. And that's where the ache comes in, the grief. Because no one warned you that obedience to your calling might first look like ruin. No one told you that awakening might start with everything falling apart. But let me tell you, this is not your end. It is your exodus. Just like the Israelites had to leave Egypt, even when it was all they had known, you too are being called out of your comfort zones. You're leaving systems, structures, even relationships that you thought were your destiny. But God is saying no. This was only the scaffolding. Now the true structure will be built. And I know the shame creeps in. The thoughts whisper, "You're too old to start over. You should be further by now. Look how much time you've lost." But listen, God is not bound by your timelines. He restores, He rebuilds, and what He's preparing you for will not be delayed, no matter what your past looks like. There is a beauty in beginning again, a holiness in surrender. The old path must collapse so that the divine blueprint can emerge. And if you're watching everything around you fall apart, take heart. That is not chaos. That is construction. Let the collapse happen. Let the false identities burn. Let the expired plans rot. Because what will rise from these ashes will be true. It will be light. It will be sacred. Remember what the scripture says. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? The new thing does not look like the old, and you will not walk into this next chapter with the same name, the same pace, or the same need for approval. You're walking in as someone born of fire, someone who has let go of everything false to become everything holy. So if the ground is shaking beneath you, don't run. Don't try to fix what God is breaking. Let it fall. Stand still in the rubble. Because what looks like the end to the world is the beginning of your sacred becoming. You are not behind. You are being rebuilt. You are not forgotten. You are being refined. And the collapse was never meant to crush you. It was meant to carry you into clarity. This is the moment where the old path disappears, so the soul can finally return to the one it was always meant to walk. There's a part of the journey no one talks about. It's the part after the collapse, after the fire, after the remembering. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It doesn't come with signs and wonders. It comes with stillness, sacred, heavy, almost unbearable stillness. And for many chosen ones, this is the most confusing phase of all, because after everything you've survived, after all the surrender, you expected motion, you expected clarity, but instead, God gave you silence. This silence isn't the kind that comes from distance. It's the kind that comes from presence, a divine hush, a pause so thick that time itself feels suspended. You wake up in the morning wondering what's next. You pray, you listen, you wait, and still, no clear instruction, no doors opening, just stillness, just breathe, just space. And this silence can feel cruel if you don't understand it. It can feel like rejection. It can feel like maybe you missed something. But listen to me, chosen one. The silence is not punishment. It is preparation. You are not being ignored. You are being grounded, rooted, saturated in something so holy that language cannot touch it. God is not withholding. He's conditioning your spirit to live without noise, to trust without signs, to breathe without panic. This is the space where the soul is rebuilt in stillness, where faith is forged without fire, where the command is not spoken, but absorbed. You don't need instructions yet. You need insulation. You need rest for the journey ahead. Because what's coming next will demand your full strength, your full clarity, your full obedience. And so this silence, it's a kindness. It's the quiet before the divine command. It's the sacred inhale before God speaks. And this is where many walk away. This is where the enemy whispers, God's not with you. But silence is not absence. It's alignment. It's the sound of heaven watching you hold the line. It's the breath of the Spirit surrounding you like a cloak. And if you listen deeper than your fear, you'll begin to hear it, not in words, but in knowing, in resonance, in deep assurance. Remember what the scripture says. In returning and rest you shall be saved. In quietness and in trust shall be your strength. That's not poetry. That's instruction. That's the rhythm of the final phase. You're not in limbo. You're in holy waiting. You're not forgotten, you're being sharpened. And when the time comes, and it will come, one word will release everything that's been gathering in the silence. But until then, rest. Wait. Breathe. Let the silence hold you. Don't rush to speak. Don't rush to fix. Don't rush to build something just to feel useful. Be still. Because stillness is not empty. Stillness is sacred space. This silence before the command is where identity is sealed, where wounds are kissed by grace, where vision is burned into your bones. So when the call comes, you don't second guess it. You move. You obey. You carry it with the full weight of heaven backing you. If you're in that silence now, don't resist it. Welcome it. Honor it. Let your soul soak in it like oil. Because when it lifts, you won't just be ready, you'll be anointed. And then, one day, almost without warning, something shifts. A light flickers where there was once only fog. A sudden knowing settles into your chest. Not loud, not overwhelming, but unmistakable. You see a glimpse, just a glimpse. But it's enough. Enough to make sense of the silence. Enough to remind you that God never stopped moving. Enough to reveal that the final phase was never about rushing, it was about realignment. You see, after the storm, after the ache, after the collapse and the stillness, the blueprint begins to reveal itself. Slowly, tenderly, like dawn creeping through a long night. People start entering your life who feel familiar to your soul. Conversations feel divinely timed. You notice synchronicities, signs, confirmations, not the kind you chase, but the kind that find you. You stop striving, you start flowing. And that's when you realize you're not the same person anymore. You no longer want the things that once drove you. You're not chasing purpose the way the world taught you. You're listening now. Not for noise, but for direction. You've learned to wait for God's rhythm, not the world's reaction. This is where the sacred assignments begin to whisper, not scream, whisper. And the whisper is enough, because you've been trained to hear with your spirit. You begin to move in ways that feel deeply familiar, even if you've never walked that path before. That's divine memory merging with divine instruction. That's the blueprint unfolding. The blueprint doesn't look like a 5-year plan. It looks like peace, like inner resonance, like decisions that make no sense on paper, but feel undeniably right in your chest. It's not about appearances anymore. It's about obedience. And it feels like home. You begin to understand why certain doors had to close, why certain people had to exit, why the pain was permitted. Not because God was cruel, but because He was crafting you into someone who could carry this level of clarity without corruption. You had to be emptied so the divine design could pour in without resistance. And when the glimpse comes, you begin to walk differently. Not with arrogance, but with quiet authority. Not needing to convince, not needing applause. Just knowing, just trusting, just following the invisible thread that has always been there. Some people will see it. They'll notice the glow. They'll ask what changed. Others won't know what to do with you anymore. That's okay. You're not walking for visibility. You're walking in alignment. And that's more powerful than attention will ever be. Remember what the word says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." That's not just a comfort. That's a declaration. That's a divine blueprint written over your life before you were even born. So if you're seeing glimpses now, follow them. Don't demand the whole picture. Don't rush the map. Glimpses are how heaven rewards patience. They're how God says, "You're close now. Keep going." This is where the past no longer binds you, where the future no longer frightens you. This is where your walk becomes a message, your life becomes a symbol, your obedience becomes a weapon against darkness. And you'll look around one day and realize the final phase isn't coming. You're already in it. Chosen one. Now that you've stepped into the final phase, you're beginning to feel something few talk about. The weight. Not a burden in the way the world defines it, but a spiritual gravity, a sacred pressure. The deeper your light grows, the more it costs to carry it. You thought the hardest part was the collapse, the letting go, the silence. But what no one told you was that the final phase doesn't just give you clarity, it gives you responsibility. And with that responsibility comes exposure, sensitivity, isolation. The kind that doesn't always make sense to others. The kind that only makes sense when you understand what you're carrying. You've been chosen by God not just to wake up, but to walk in light while still surrounded by shadows, to speak truth while others whisper comfort, to embody grace in a world obsessed with vengeance. And that calling, as beautiful as it is, comes with a cost. You feel it when you walk into a room and immediately sense the atmosphere. You feel it when people look at you strangely, but can't name why. You feel it when your silence carries more weight than others shouting. That's not your imagination. That's spiritual presence, and presence always carries pressure. You're no longer invisible to the realm of darkness. You glow now, even when you don't try. Especially when you don't try. That's why spiritual warfare intensifies after awakening, not because you're weak, but because you're becoming potent. Your very existence disrupts patterns. Your peace confronts chaos. Your humility exposes pride. Your very stillness becomes a mirror that makes others uncomfortable. And sometimes, that isolation hurts. You long to be understood. You crave companionship. But your spirit keeps pulling you back into solitude. Not because you're being punished, but because your energy is being purified. You're learning to distinguish between noise and resonance, between distraction and assignment. Don't despise this cost. Don't mistake it for rejection. You're not being pushed out. You're being set apart for something holy, for something lasting. This season of sacred cost is heaven's way of making sure you don't dilute your anointing just to be accepted. You've come too far to water yourself down now. You've passed through fire. You've endured the silence. You've surrendered the old. And now your presence is meant to change rooms, not adjust to them. Let me remind you of this. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't sent to be silent. You are not just waking up. You are becoming a lighthouse for those still lost in the fog. And lighthouses are not praised for fitting in. They are respected for standing alone, for shining through the storm, for holding steady when everything else disappears in the dark. So yes, there is a cost to carrying light, but there is also unspeakable reward. The reward of walking in truth, of sleeping in peace, of knowing who you are and who you answer to. That is worth more than applause, more than fitting in, more than being understood by the masses. You are not losing, you are leading. You are not behind. You are being elevated in silence, and even when no one sees your sacrifice, heaven does. The angels do, God does. Chosen one, don't put your light under a basket just because the room isn't ready for it. Shine anyway, walk anyway, speak anyway, love anyway. The cost is high, but the calling is holy, and you were made for holy. Chosen one, if you've made it this far, you already know. Something sacred has been unfolding in your life, not loudly but unmistakably, not rushed but right on time. This wasn't just a video, this was a mirror, a key, a confirmation, not of something you need to become, but of something you already are. You've walked through the ache, the silence, the fire, the forgetting, and now you're starting to see clearly. You're not waiting for the final phase to arrive. You're already living it. You are the evidence. You are the vessel. You are the story God is writing in real time. And the proof isn't just in what's changed around you. It's in the stillness that no longer scares you. It's in the clarity you feel in your bones, even when your mind still has questions. It's in the way you move, speak, feel, how you no longer force what doesn't resonate, how you no longer need to explain your growth. You're not performing, you're not proving, you're simply becoming. There's a sacred strength in you now, a knowing, a presence, a divine hush. You've crossed the invisible threshold. You're no longer just surviving, you're building, you're remembering. You're walking with a light that cannot be dimmed by time, by age, by opinion, or by delay. You've been chosen, not just to awaken, but to walk in that awakening with reverence, power, and peace. And yes, the world may still try to pull you back into old patterns. People may still project their fears onto your freedom. But you won't be shaken, because what you carry now is deeper than opinion. It's sacred, it's sealed, it's eternal. The final phase is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your real one. The one where you don't chase purpose, you embody it. The one where you don't need signs, you are the sign. The one where you don't just hope for destiny, you become the living fulfillment of it. So breathe, chosen one. Let this moment mark you. Let it settle deep into your soul. You're not late. You're not forgotten. You're not broken. You are rising in the timing of heaven, and there is nothing stronger than a soul aligned with God. If something in you stirred during this journey, if you felt seen, remembered, softened, I invite you now to comment 777 or 1111, not for views, not for numbers, but as a declaration, as a prayer, as a sacred agreement between your soul and the divine. Subscribe to this space if it called you home, because this isn't just a channel, it's a refuge, a place to return to whenever the world gets too heavy, a sanctuary for your awakening, a reminder that you are never walking this path alone. Whenever you forget, come back here. Whenever you feel lost, come back here. Whenever the world gets too heavy, this space is here. Come back to rest your soul. You are ready now. You are walking differently now. The final phase has already begun. And you were born for this.